My family accused me of being a thief for 3 years. They took my adolescence and destroyed my reputation. But when they discovered the real culprit was my younger brother, their golden boy, their apologies will never give back what they stole from me. I'm 23 years old. I work at an insurance company doing data analysis, and honestly, I thought I'd already gotten over all of this. But like 3 weeks ago, my mom called me again, and all that shit from the past came back to the surface. I need to tell you guys this story because, I don't know, maybe writing it out will help me process everything. Or maybe I just want someone else to know what I went through. The thing is that between ages 15 and 18, my family accused me of being a thief. They punished me like I was a criminal, basically destroyed my life, and it turns out that the whole time it was my younger brother who was stealing. Yeah, you read that right. 3 years of my life ruined over something I didn't even do. Let me start from the beginning. We're 3 siblings. Or, we were. I don't even know how to refer to them honestly anymore. Courtney is the oldest. She was 17 when all this started. I was in the middle at 15, and Austin was the youngest at 11 years old. Courtney was always the responsible one, like perfect student type, never got in trouble. I was your typical average kid, got decent grades, had my friends, played video games, nothing extraordinary. And Austin, well, Austin was the baby of the family, the golden child who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. My mom literally called him her little angel, and my dad always said Austin was his second chance at being a better father because with Courtney and me he'd been too strict. I don't know if that was true, but he was definitely way more lenient with Austin. My dad, Edward, had 2 collections that he loved more than anything in the world. One was knives and blades of all kinds, some antique, others limited edition, stuff like that. The other was baseball cards, like from the 50s and 60s. Some were worth quite a bit of money, according to him. He kept them in the basement in these locked display cases, and only he had access. Well, supposedly only he had access. The thing started when I was 15. I think it was in October or November. I don't remember exactly. My dad went down to the basement and started yelling that some knives were missing. Not many, like 3 or 4, but for him it was like someone had stolen a kidney. He came up furious asking who had been in the basement, and we all said no, obviously, because none of us had any reason to be down there. Like 2 weeks passed and one of the knives showed up in my school backpack. I swear to God I don't know how it got there. But one day I came home and my dad was in my room holding the knife, with this look I'll never forget, like a mix of disappointment and absolute fury. He asked me what it was doing there, and I had no idea. I told him someone must have put it there, that I'd never touched it, that I didn't even know the combination to his display cases. But he didn't believe me. My mom didn't either. They both went into like police interrogation mode, yelling at me, asking me why I'd stolen the other knives, where I'd sold them, what I'd spent the money on. And I kept telling them I hadn't done anything. But the more I denied it, the more convinced they were that I was lying. They grounded me for 3 months. No phone, no computer except for school homework and under supervision, no hanging out with friends, nothing. I had to do double the chores my siblings did, like washing all the dishes, taking out the trash, mowing the lawn, cleaning the bathrooms, everything. And the worst part is they told the extended family what I'd supposedly done. My aunt started hiding her purse when I went to her house. My uncle Jonathan would give me these like disapproving looks every time he saw me, and my cousins started treating me differently. At school, people found out too because Austin, the bastard, told his friends, and those kids have older siblings who went to my school. So basically everyone started whispering that I was a thief. Some kids would literally say things to me in the hallways like, "Hey, watch your stuff, here comes the klepto." It was horrible. But the worst part, what really destroyed me, was that things kept disappearing. Like 2 months after the first incident, more knives went missing and some baseball cards. And obviously my parents blamed me immediately. They didn't investigate, didn't consider other possibilities, just me. They increased my punishment to 6 months. They took the door off my room because according to them they needed to be able to watch me at all times. And they started checking my backpack and my stuff every day when I got home from school. It was like living in a prison. Seriously. And the thing is, I wasn't doing anything wrong, but I started feeling guilty anyway, you know what I mean? Like when they accuse you of something so much, you start doubting yourself. There were moments when I thought, what if I did do it and I don't remember? What if I have some mental problem or something? It sounds stupid now, but when you're 15 years old and your whole family is telling you you're a liar and a thief, you start to believe that maybe they're right. When I turned 16, my parents canceled my birthday party. Courtney had had a big party when she turned 16, with all her friends and decorations and special cake and everything. I got nothing. My mom made me a small cake. They sang happy birthday at dinner, and that was it. Oh, and they also didn't let me get my driver's license. They said they didn't trust me with that responsibility. That first I had to prove I could be honest and trustworthy. Courtney got her license the day she turned 16. Austin got his at 16 too when his turn came, but I had to wait until I was 18 when I didn't need their permission anymore. You know how humiliating it is to be 17 years old and have your friends drive you everywhere because your parents don't trust you to drive? Things kept disappearing sporadically. It wasn't all the time. Sometimes months would go by without anything, missing. But then suddenly, something else would be gone and my parents would come straight to me. They started threatening me with sending me to therapy, with sending me to military school, with not paying for my college. My mom would cry and say she didn't understand where they'd gone wrong raising me, where she'd failed as a mother. My dad just stopped talking to me except to give me orders or accuse me of things. Courtney stayed neutral because she was about to go to college in another state, and I think she didn't want to get involved, but she never defended me either, which hurt quite a bit if I'm being honest. Austin, on the other hand, continued being the perfect child. He got good grades, was super polite with my parents, helped around the house without being asked. My parents constantly held him up as an example. Like, look at your brother. He knows how to behave. He's responsible. And me sitting there thinking, seriously, is this my life now? I started making plans to leave. As the house as soon as I turned 18. I saved every dollar I could from small jobs I got from time to time, looked at prices of cheap apartments, researched scholarships and student loans. My goal was simple. Survive until 18 and get the hell out of there. I did it. The day I turned 18 years old, I packed my stuff in a friend's car. He still didn't have my own because my parents never helped me buy one like they did with Courtney. And I left. I rented a room in an apartment with a guy who was studying at the community college near where I was going to start studying, and I cut contact with my family almost completely. I'd talk to Courtney from time to time because she eventually apologized for not supporting me, but with my parents and with Austin, I wanted nothing to do. My parents tried calling me a couple times at first. They'd send messages saying they were disappointed that I'd decided to cut ties with them, that family was important, blah blah blah. I ignored them. I had nothing today to say to them. The next few years were hard but good at the same time. You know what I mean? I had to work full-time while studying. My grades weren't as good as they could have been because I was constantly stressed about money and about staying afloat, but I was free. I didn't have anyone watching me, accusing me, making me feel like trash. I made new friends who didn't know anything about my past. I started dating a girl for a while. It didn't work out, but that's another story. Basically, I built a new life away from all that drama. I thought that was it, that I'd closed that chapter of my life forever. And then 3 weeks ago, my mom called me. I hadn't talked to her in like 5 years. I'd only had minimal contact like birthday or Christmas texts, nothing deep. But she called me crying, saying she needed to talk to me urgently, to please not hang up. And I don't know why, but I listened. She told me that things had started disappearing from the house again. More knives and some of the remaining baseball cards. My first reaction was like, so what? Why are you telling me this? But then she told me something that left me paralyzed. She told me that this time they'd installed security cameras in the basement and they'd caught Austin stealing. That they'd confronted him and he'd confessed everything, that he'd been stealing since he was 11 years old, that he sold the stuff online or gave them to a friend who had an older cousin who resold them. That it had been him all along. I don't know how to describe what I felt in that moment. Relief? Fury? Vindication? Pain? It was like everything at once. My mom kept talking, saying she was so sorry, that they'd made a terrible mistake, that they wanted to make things right with me, to please come to her birthday dinner the following week so we could talk in person. 5 years. 5 damn years since I left that house, and now it turns out I'd been right all along, but they never believed me. I called Courtney to confirm if it was true. She told me yes, that my parents were devastated, that Austin had basically admitted everything without much remorse, that he'd said something like, "I thought no one would notice." Courtney was angry with him too. She told me she'd always believed in my innocence, but that she never had proof to defend me. I told her that wasn't enough, that if she'd really believed me, she would have supported me openly. But she just repeated that she was sorry and that she hoped I'd go to my mom's dinner. I wasn't going to go. Seriously. My plan was to ignore all of this and move on with my life. But then my dad sent me a text message, the first in years, saying, "Please, give me the chance to apologize face to face." And I don't know. Something in me decided I wanted to hear what he had to say. Maybe I needed closure, or maybe I just wanted to see them admit they were wrong. So anyway, I went to the dinner. It was as awkward as I imagined it would be. I arrived at my parents' house, the same house, everything looked the same. And my mom opened the door with her eyes all teary. She tried to hug me, but I pulled away. Inside were my dad, Austin, Courtney, my grandparents, and some aunts, uncles, and cousins. The aunt who always hid her purse was there, my uncle Jonathan, with his daughter Danielle, who was like 22 now. Everyone got quiet when I walked in. It was super weird. I sat as far as possible from Austin, who wouldn't even look at me. Dinner started and everyone was trying to act normal, talking about the weather and work and anything but the obvious. Until my cousin Danielle, who'd always been kind of loudmouthed, said in like a joking tone, "So, do we not have to hide our purses when you're around anymore?" The table went silent. And I just looked at her and said, "You never had to, Danielle, but if your dad taught you to judge people without evidence, I guess that's your problem, not mine." My uncle Jonathan got mad and told me not to talk to his daughter like that it was just a joke. And that's when everything came out. I told them that none of this was a joke, that they'd treated me like a criminal for 3 years for something I didn't do, that they'd taken away my adolescence, that they'd made me doubt my own sanity. I told my mom that her little angel Austin had been laughing at all of them the whole time while I suffered the consequences of his actions. I told my dad he was a coward for not investigating better, for automatically assuming his middle child was the problem. I told the extended family that each one of them had treated me like trash based on accusations without proof, and then I got up and left. My dad followed me to the parking lot. He told me I was right, that there was no excuse, that they'd failed as parents. I asked him why they never considered it could be Austin, and he just said that Austin was too young, that they didn't believe in one-year-old kid was capable of something like that. I told him that wasn't a good enough answer, that I was young too, that I was 15 when it all started, and that if they could believe me capable of that, they should have considered everyone. He didn't know what to say. He just repeated that he was sorry and that they wanted to compensate me somehow. I told him there was no way to compensate for what they did to me, and I left. I thought that was the end. But the story got more interesting. Like 2 weeks after that dinner, my mom called me again to tell me that Austin had stolen my grandparents' truck without permission, had crashed it, and had been arrested. Apparently he was drunk, was with a friend, and totaled the truck my grandparents had just finished paying off. My grandparents were furious and kicked him out of their house where he'd been living for the past few months because my parents couldn't stand him anymore. My mom told me all of this, like she expected me to feel sorry or something. All I felt was bitter satisfaction, like finally everyone can see who he really is. My parents had to cancel the college fund they had for Austin to pay for the damages to my grandparents' truck and the legal expenses. Austin ended up with probation and community service, but basically got a criminal record at 16 years old. Ironic, right? The golden child turned out to be exactly the kind of person they always accused me of being. My mom and dad kept trying to contact me after that. They offered to pay my student loans, which at that point were like $30,000. They offered to buy me a new car, basically trying to buy my forgiveness. I told them no. I told them that money wasn't going to fix the psychological damage they caused me, that it wasn't going to erase the years of therapy I needed to rebuild my self-esteem, that it wasn't going to give me back my adolescence. What pissed me off the most is that they acted like a Simple, sorry, and some money were enough to make up for treating me like a criminal for years. The last I heard about Austin, he was still living with my parents because he had nowhere else to go, and apparently he'd stolen again. This time, it was from the emergency fund my parents kept in cash at home. He stole like $3,000 from them and used it for who knows what. My mom told me about it crying on the phone, saying she didn't know what to do with him, that she'd already tried everything. I just told her that maybe she should have thought about that 8 years ago when she decided to believe him instead of me. I know it sounds cruel, but it's the truth. Like a week ago, I sent a final message to my parents. I told them I appreciated that they finally knew the truth, but that didn't change what they did to me. That I wasn't interested in rebuilding a relationship with them, that the damage was too great. That I wished Courtney the best because she at least tried to make amends. But that with them and with Austin, I wanted nothing to do anymore. I told them not to contact me again, to please respect my decision. My mom responded with a long message, telling me I'd always be her son, that the door to her house would always be open, blah blah blah. I didn't respond. Here I am now, 23 years old, living my life, working on my career, hanging out with my friends, who are basically my chosen family. I still have nightmares sometimes, dreams where I'm back in that house and everyone's yelling at me that I'm a thief. I still get anxious when someone can't find something, and I'm the last person who was near it. I still have trouble trusting that people will believe me when I tell the truth. But I'm working on that with my therapist, and things are getting better little by little. What hurts me the most isn't even what Austin did. I mean, he was a stupid kid who made stupid decisions. What really destroys me is that my parents, the people who are supposed to know me better than anyone, who should have trusted me, chose not to. They chose to believe the worst of me without real evidence, and then when they found a knife in my backpack that someone else obviously put there, they used that as confirmation of all their suspicions. They never investigated how it got there, never considered that someone was framing me. They just assumed I was guilty, and built everything around that assumption, and now they want me to act like a sorry is enough. Like they can just admit their mistake and everything goes back to normal. But it doesn't work like that. You can't accuse your son of being a thief for 3 years, treat him like trash, allow the whole family and school to ostracize him, and then think an apology is going to fix everything. There are things that can't be repaired, and I think my relationship with them is one of those things. Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if none of this had happened. If I'd had a normal adolescence, if I'd gone to parties and had girlfriends and gotten my license at 16 like all my friends, if I'd had the emotional and financial support from my parents for college instead of having to do everything alone, I probably would have studied something different, probably would be living in another city, probably would be a different person. But there's no point thinking about that because I can't change the past. I can only decide how to handle the present and the future. Last week I was having dinner with some friends from work, and one of them mentioned something about how his younger brother always got in trouble when they were kids. Everyone was laughing and telling funny stories about their families, and I just stayed quiet because I don't have those kinds of memories. My family memories are all tainted by this experience, by years of feeling like a stranger in my own home. And that's what Austin and my parents took from me. Not just my adolescence, but also the possibility of having normal, happy, family memories. That's what they'll never be able to give back to me, no matter how much money they offer me or how many times they apologize. And that's why I can't forgive them. Not now, maybe not ever.